Hey, church, happy Wednesday. I just want to bring you a few words of encouragement here at the midweek. I think all of us sometimes have aspirations that we want to do great things for God. And sometimes we see other people, maybe we look to historical figures of faith who have done great things on mission for God, and we want to be like them. Or maybe it's just more local. Maybe it's someone in our own church, and we think, hey, I want to be like that guy. He seems to be so strong in his faith. He makes sacrifices for the Lord, and I want to have a faith like that. There's a story I was studying today in Matthew 14 about a great faith, and it's a story of the disciples were in a boat. Jesus came walking on the water, and then he called Peter out to step out of the boat and to walk on water with him. And Peter, in an example of great faith, he responds to Jesus and he steps out of the boat and he literally walks on water. I mean, it's one thing for Jesus, who is God, to walk on water, but for Peter, on account of his faith, to literally walk on water. But when things get a little dicey, Peter's faith begins to fail and he begins to sink. So, a story about a great faith. And let me just look at Matthew 14, verses 30 and 31. This is where we see Peter's faith get challenged. And the text says, when he saw the wind, he was afraid, and he began to sink. And he cried out to Jesus, "Jesus, save me." And Jesus immediately reached out and he took Peter by the hand and pulled him up out of the water where he had begun to sink. And then he said to Peter, "Oh, you of little faith, why did you doubt?" I mean, it's really an interesting story, a juxtaposition of faith and doubt, because I think any of us, if we had been in the boat that day that Peter stepped out, we would have thought, this is a man of great faith. I want to have faith like Peter's. How courageous he is to follow Jesus and to step out of the boat. But then that great faith, when Peter began to encounter an increased wind and larger waves, his faith began to fail and his courage began to falter, and literally Peter began to sink into the water. Of course, Jesus was there and Jesus reached out and saved him. But consider that. I wonder maybe if the true measure of a person's faith is not that initial enthusiasm, that enthusiastic faith they have at the beginning of the mission, but it's the faith, the character of their faith when they later on encounter trials and difficulties. I can say for myself, just an example from my own life, I sometimes like to do projects around the house, do-it-yourself projects, and I'll see something I want to fix or I want to make, and I get really enthusiastic about it, and I study it, I research it, I get the parts and materials for it, and then about halfway through the project, it gets tough, and it's a lot harder than I thought it would be, or it's taking more time than I thought it would take, and my enthusiasm falters, and sadly, I could make a long list of projects I never finished because of that. I think our faith can be that way too. We can sometimes start out with great and enthusiastic faith, but when we encounter challenges in life, challenges in the world around us, our faith sometimes falters and our courage begins to fail. So what's the character of our faith? Something to consider, the character of our faith. Does it have stick-to-itiveness to it? And I'll tell you this, if Jesus calls you to it, he is going to bring you through it. He is going to give you the strength you need to endure until the end. He will make a path for you and a way for you. And certainly this year, I think back, we just had this election last Sunday, and it's a year since we had the first election that we just had to redo here in Bolivia. And you just think, what a difficult year it's been, what challenges we have faced for this nation, for our church, for us individually. And we've had to go through a lot. And then on top of the social and political unrest we faced, we've had the pandemic. Everybody around the world's had to deal with that. But I just want to say I'm so encouraged by the faith of many of you as we've now had the chance to gather once again as a church. You've come out with enthusiasm. and with joy to worship as a family of faith. And I just pray that our faith will not fail, that our faith, I'm encouraged that our faith has endured through these many difficulties we have faced. And moving forward, I think maybe the most important things we can do is to keep that faith and not let it fail and falter, and that we can be a people of prayer and a people of praise in these difficult days, that God's got a good future ahead for us. We're going to pray that God has a good future ahead for our dear Bolivia. So, friends, hey, take care of each other out there. Be safe. Encourage each other. Keep the faith. Don't be discouraged. I love you guys. Look forward to seeing you soon. God bless.